So let me take you back to the Amiga for a second. Because in the beginning there was Crazy Cars, and then there was another one of it. They weren't great. Part of the big run of generic arcade-like racers of the late 80s, and this might not surprise some given they were produced by Titus, who've come in for a kicking on this show before. Not least, of course, for Superman 64. But we also saw them to be a party to a crime of the highest order in the season finale of the 73% trials, in the form of Prehistoric. It's fair to say they have a reputation. It's also fair to say it was often deserved. Their best received game was probably Titus the Fox, a platform game weirdly originally featuring a French comedian, before being retooled for everyone else based on the nearest character immediately to hand, their own mascot. There is one more, fondly remembered by some of us but now largely forgotten, partly because of its iffy predecessors, and partly because a year after its release it was slightly retooled and renamed. Crazy Cars 3. An innovative Lotus-style racer where you could bet on the races, turning it into almost an unofficial tie-in game to Cannonball Run, and where crucially they'd nailed the speed and handling issues that had plagued the other two. Amiga Power, in impressively prescient fashion, had mused they'd have been better off releasing it under a completely different name. Because of course they did. By the time it hit the SNES a year later, it had been renamed Lamborghini American Challenge, and had picked up the two-player mode sorely missing from the original Amiga version. It becomes the first game in our two-game racing comparison. The other is a game called Top Gear 2, and our reviewer, Amiga Power gentleman editor Jonathan Davies, does not mention it, but it also has Amiga lineage. If you didn't know, let me see if you get it if I play you the title theme from the first Top Gear. If you're an Amiga gaming god, that's going to be familiar. Listen to this. Yes, the ending theme from Lotus 2 is remixed into the title theme for the first Top Gear. And actually, most of the Top Gear music is Lotus remixes, because the first two Top Gear games are both warmed over ports of the Lotus engine shorn of its license. Which suddenly makes this interesting. Because Lotus was the definitive Amiga racing series. We can debate for hours which one is the best and why you are wrong for thinking it was the second one, but we can all at least agree that at least one of them is right up there with the best arcade way to drive a car on the machine. And while someone will be along in a minute to mention Jaguar XJ220, for my money at the time, Crazy Cars 3 was the only game to ever touch them. So on SNES, both altered from their Amiga releases and given a new coat of paint in the case of Crazy Cars, and paint, new carpets and a plug-in Fresh Pine air freshener in the case of Top Gear, which one has come out best? Top Gear 2 swipes its major game progression from the first Lotus game, with a series of championships each set in a single country, starting with Australia. It also swipes its general aesthetic from Lotus. If you didn't know its lineage, then you'd have every chance of guessing. The 20-car races are not dissimilar to the first Lotus as well. Progression, though, is not gated by your championship results. As long as you finish in the top 10 in any given race, you keep going. The manual doesn't tell you this, but merely claims if you place in the top 10 you'll get championship points, before listing the number of points you get for 1st to 6th. You only win money for a top 6 finish as well. I found this out because, having finished easily in the top 6 in my test race, my skills of course immediately went absolutely to crap as soon as I turned the capture on, leading to a complete and miserable failure. A second attempt at least netted me 8th for progression, but no cash. As always with career modes, I like this though. I really don't like a career mode where you have to win every race to progress. Here, with the short 4-race championships and opponents who credibly do not always finish every race in the same order, it is possible to make up for a bad race. And indeed, despite that non-score, non-cash race, I did end up winning the championship. Wait, money, you ask? Well, that's the first difference from the Lotus games, because this game has a basic but effective upgrade system for your car, with engines, gearboxes, tyres and armour to be purchased. Each has 4 levels, and given there's no trade-ins, you have to try and avoid buying the lower end items unless you absolutely have to. Which brings me to the other difference, and the other upgrade item, Nitro. For each race you get 6 shots of car Red Bull to use as you choose, and you might want to mentally keep track of what you've got, because the gauge, even in this emulator version, is really tricky to read at speed. It must have been next to impossible to see on an imperfect CRT connection at the time. Already in this Australian Championship, it's technically rather lovely for a 16-bit racer. The music is great, although really sounds more like ported Amiga tunes than anything the SNES would natively normally do. The graphics are nice though, with an excellent looking night level, and a wet race for which you'll need new tyres to be effective. Splashing out on those netted me my first win. We move on, and the second championship is in Britain, starting off in Scotland at, apparently, Loch Ness, where it's foggy. Of course it is. Again though, it looks good, with the lights being the only part of the other cars visible in the distance. I'm getting the hang of this a little more by this point as well, not least because I've figured out the boost system demands a strategy almost entirely opposite from most boost-based races. You see, in general, exemplified as much as anything by this, the recent release Hotshot Racers, you want to save your boost, and then spam it to crap at the end of the race. This is because arcade racers normally use a rubber banding system where it's like you're connected to the AI by one. If you're behind, it'll slow them down. If you're ahead, then they perform superhuman speed feats to catch you. So there's no point using boost early on, because they'll just catch you as soon as you stop. Top Gear's different. There doesn't appear to be any rubber banding at all, and in fact it's very important to get through the pack early. You start at the back where it's very crowded, and it's very easy to blow any chance of a good result by just bouncing off cars running around 15th place for long enough that first place has buggered off down the road. So while you want to spread your boost out, it's absolutely a viable tactic to use more of it in the early laps, to make sure you can at least get through to the points before they storm out of reach. It's damn fun though. By using fewer but more powerful boosts than most games, then there's a genuine strategy to where to deploy them, both in terms of the race conditions and the track layout, especially when you need to find multiple points in a lap to deploy, or smack it off a wall and have to panic boost to make up for it. I loved this. It's the hidden sequel to the original Lotus, by being much more of a straight sequel to its own previous entry than Lotus 2 ever was, right down to its major feature being races are no longer split screen in single player. Later races even force you to think about fuel just like you had to in Lotus 1, and even damage. I have a huge capture file to this, because I kept playing it for far too long, right through the British Championship's visit to Stonehenge, it's a quality henge, and ultimately winning that one too. I literally only stopped playing it because it was dinner time, and I've not said that about a retro game in a while. It's a shame it didn't get a handheld release, because it'd be perfect for it. Except it will be. If you own the fine new retro cartridge handheld, the Evercade, Top Gear, now for legal reasons going by its Japanese name Top Racer, is owned by Pico Interactive, and the original is already out on the first Pico Interactive collection. This game is coming early next year as part of their second release. That is going to be goddarned essential. Superplay gave it a slightly stingy 74%, and really the only excuse they gave for that is it looks a little old, which I can't entirely disagree with. But I think they're saying that mostly because of their obsession with Mode 7 graphics, even when those aren't the right way to go about things. The other point they give is that it's mostly accelerating and going left and right, which is pretty much what an arcade racer is. But fair enough. We've defined a perfectly sensible baseline here. A really good Lotus-style racing game was worth 74% on the SNES in 1993. Superplay thought this head-to-head was really close. I'll skip ahead and tell you Lamborghini American Challenge is going to get the dreaded 73%. If you haven't seen the 73% trials, 73% was famously the mark a magazine gave when they didn't want to recommend a game, but also not piss off the publisher. This was revealed by Amiga Power in a feature exactly 3 issues after the departure of one Jonathan Davies as editor. It's a good thing no one's on trial here, isn't it? Lamborghini is on the face of it pretty similar. It also has a series of races across several divisions, but here there's more of them per division and it's gated with an entry fee to the races rather than previous finishes. Fair enough, let's do a racing. The first thing I notice is there's something fairly weird about that car movement. Maybe it's the way it drifts across the screen in the opposite direction to where you press, but it's actually really disconcerting coming straight from Top Gear. It also has the effect of effectively narrowing the road, at least from your own perception. We can get used to it though, especially once we discover we also have boost. Or really, boost. It goes on forever, which is only fair since I've only got the one. It's enough to propel me to an almost suspiciously easy race win. We take on a second race, and clearly we've bitten off more than we can chew with this higher grade one, and labour to a position outside of the points. This is exacerbated by the fact we apparently don't get a boost every race, it's something we're going to need to go to the upgrade shop and buy. In traditional Yesterzine fashion, I immediately forget this and enter a third, easier race, choosing to spend all my remaining money on a ruinous bet with my contemporaries. I'm all in. And it works! We win, collecting a nice little nest egg to help recover from the previous failure. And then it's game over. Wait, what? The game gives absolutely no reason for this, but to be fair, the game also doesn't even really tell you it's game over until the reappearance of the title screen acts as a relatively strong hint to this fact. The manual also fails to tell you what a game over condition might be, merely offering that divisional progress is gated behind a playoff race, but that's not what I just did. Incidentally, the manual for the CD32 version also says there's no saving system, but that's okay because you can complete the game in a single session. Way to make people feel good about spending 40 quid, Titus. Eventually I work out it's probably because I don't have the money to enter any of the remaining races, which proves to be the correct answer. I further wonder how far this goes. So we visit the upgrade shop and buy an upgrade that costs all of our money. As soon as we return to the map... Yep. The game does not warn you. The game lets you do it. Buying an upgrade is a failure condition in Lamborghini American Challenge. That's quite impressively shit. I bet actual money QA spotted this and a product manager ignored them. On the plus side, if you've been smart enough to video capture all your gameplay and can thus see the password, the game does have a save system. We take the chance to check out how much those boosts are, and the answer is apparently $50,000. What are they made of? Nitrous oxide or something? Oh wait, yes. To give you some context, I'm not sure I won 50 large in the entire time I played this game for this segment, so you basically don't get boost. The races are longer than Top Gear, but they're also more dull. You see considerably fewer real enemy cars, and even the appearance of a lot of public road drone cars doesn't help. Because they're a lot slower than you, much time is spent just dodging them, which makes actually racing the other race cars a lot harder, especially as they don't appear to have any problem avoiding traffic. It also means that it's very easy to get trapped behind really quite a lot of the other racers at the beginning of the race, between the cloud of competitors and the drone traffic. And it's especially a problem given that lack of boost and the fact you need to finish very high up. If you don't get past them quickly, as I didn't in this race, you're going to spend the entire rest of the race pretty much chasing one dude. Your chances are already over. And that's fine, in racing you have off days. But here you don't generally make a profit on the entrance fee unless you finish in the top 2, and obviously most of the time to win a bet against the other named competitors you're going to have to actually win the race. Keeping your money up in this game is hard. If you turn betting off, which commendably you are allowed to do, I don't know how you get anywhere with it without an 100% record. It's probably time to explain that career mode rant about games that expect you to win every race in reality. Lamborghini Crazy Challenge, much like Top Lotus, has 20 car races. But it doesn't, does it? You're only racing one car, and that's the bastard who starts first. There are traffic cars and rival cars, but really they're just all drone cars of various speeds. So why bother putting them in? Just make it a head-to-head with drone cars. There is no material difference in Lamborghini between a 4th and 20th place finish. So if you're still 6th with 20% of the race to go, just back off and at least avoid the damage. Which for an arcade racing game is not what they should be pushing. I had fond memories of both these games in their original versions, but it's pretty clear coming back to them in console form, there really is only one winner. Everything in Lambo is just worse than the equivalent thing in Top Gear, to the extent I want to rename Lambo to Top Gear, but after they hired those two renter-presenter dicks to host it. Despite everything, it's not bad. It's competent. But at times it almost feels like an in-development version of Top Gear, like some recently rediscovered beta before they fixed the driving, thought better of the betting, and retooled the boost and progression systems for release. Both these games returned to Amiga, which in the case of Top Gear 2 is actually helpful. As I said, at times it feels a better sequel to Lotus than Lotus 2 was, fitting much closer to how the original Lotus worked than they did. It's the hidden fourth Lotus game, and it does something appreciably different. Why they bothered with Lambo, I don't know. It was Crazy Cars 3 plus a 2-player mode that struggled on an A500. Amiga Power basically gave it a non-review on that basis, which is hardly surprising given Crazy 3 was 2 years old by this point. In any case, today, Top Gear is worth a decent wodge more than 74%, and Lambo considerably less than its 73%, and I think Jonathan knew that. Superplay gave 4 additional scores for the fairly traditional categories of graphics, sound, gameplay, and game life. In all those, the gap between the two was considerably more than 1%. The closest Lambo got was for game life at 5% gap. So why the high score? To me, it seems he just wanted to indicate Top Gear was better and leave it at that. After all, you'll buy the better game regardless of the gap. Even the review says about Lamborghini, it's possible to carry on, but it's a struggle, and somehow just doesn't seem worth it, especially when you could be playing Top Gear 2 instead. Like I say, it's a good thing no one's on trial here, isn't it? This feature was taken from an episode of Yesterzine, the literal magazine show, where every month we look at a new magazine and pull out slices of history like this. To see them before the thumbnail clicking masses, simply subscribe to this channel and tune in last Friday of every month.